Welcome to 3ds Max 2023 Lesson 1. In this lesson we will cover setting up your workspace, interface basics and movement, plan importation, basic spline modeling and modifiers, array tool, spacing tool, and creating basic views with cameras. Let's go. Okay, so after installing 3ds Max 2023 for the first time, you're going to be greeted with this welcome screen. Basically you can just close that, it's not very important. When you open Max like this, you're going to find 4 viewports: the top view, the front view, perspective view where you're going to be working most of the time, and the left view. First thing that I think is the most important thing to do for everybody is go to customize and set up your units. That way we're working in a metric system and it's going to match up with any DWG plans that we're going to import from, whether it's Revit or AutoCAD or any other CAD software. So we're going to start by clicking metric. We're going to be working in millimeters, and that's about all for this section. We're going to click OK. And the first thing we need to learn is how do we import the plan that the architect has sent us. And that we can do by going to File, going down here to Import, and again Import. Click that file, then you need to navigate to wherever your file is. So I have it in this folder over here, and we're going to click on this file over here. It's called Floor 6, and we're going to click Open. Obviously your one will be called something else, but this is the basics. Over here, this is more or less all standard. You can keep it, have hatches ticked, and it's already in millimeters, so we don't need to rescale that, and we're going to click OK. So in general, when you get files from architects, they're going to look more or less like this. So here's your top view. This is the plan, or in other words, you call it plan view. You can press G on your keyboard as a shortcut to remove this grid, and it's easier to see what you've imported. Zooming in and out will be with your middle mouse button. In and out. If you want to pan, you just click the middle mouse button and drag to your next section over here. If we click on a different viewport, that will activate the different viewport, and so we'll click on the perspective viewport, and what we will do is we will click on this button over here, which is maximize viewport toggle, and that's going to open this viewport to a full screen. There we go. And we're going to middle mouse button, click again, and we're going to pan over to this plan. Middle mouse button, scroll in, scroll out, and then we are going to select the plan. You can select the plan by either clicking on it and it will select an object, or you can click and drag a box around it and that will select everything that's in this area basically. Or if there's something attached further away to a spline, it will also select it. It will show a bounding box around it. But for the moment we're going to just select that, and we are going to move around this object. So how do we move around this object? What we can do is we can click Alt and middle mouse button, and there we're moving around the object, or the plan in this case. Or over here you also have the orbit tool, which is exactly the same thing, but you just need to click on this and it's going to give you this circle and the orbit that you can move around like that. But I would say it's a lot easier to just click Alt and middle mouse button. That way you can look from above, from below, from the side. This is what you're going to be probably using this method for the most out of all the tools in this whole program. So another thing is that over here, we'll just go back to this maximize viewport toggle, and we're going to go back to the 4 viewports. And over here, it shows you basically a preset of what we have at the moment. So we have 4 viewports, which is represented by 4 viewports, but we can also, by clicking this triangle over here, change the viewport to, for example, 2 viewports, because sometimes 4 viewports can be a little bit confusing, and you don't really need to work in 4 viewports. A lot of people work in 2, and there we have the 2. So, but now we don't have anything in these viewports. Where did our plan go? So what you can do is go to the top of the viewport, and over here you'll see it's marked front. And if you click on that, you have all the different viewports available to you over here. So if we go to perspective and we click on it, and then we go back to zoom extends all, which is going to take everything in the scene and put it into your visible viewport. There we go. So this perspective, we're going to select again from the side. We're going to click Alt, and we're going to middle mouse button and rotate around. So that's your perspective viewport over here. It's essentially your 3D viewport. Then we have our top viewport over here, so we can move to say, let's go to bottom. So that will be essentially looking at the plan from the bottom view. You can go to top view as we had it before, and left, right, back, and those other ones. At the moment you can see that basically the bottom view, the back view, and the right view don't have shortcuts assigned to them, because it's a lot easier to basically go to perspective view and just click T, and then you're already in the top view, or you go to F and you're in the front view, or any of the other shortcuts. So for the moment, what I'd like to do, I'd like to go to customize hotkey editor, and I would like to just scroll down to basically right view. I'm gonna just go and find R. Where is it? Right view over here, and we're going to click R, and that's going to, it's already assigned to scale, but we don't need that, and we're going to remove it from scale, and we're going to assign it to right view. There we go. And then we're just going to check again over here, and we need to just set we got our right view. It hasn't updated here for the moment because we need to click done over there. But we are going to do back view and bottom view. So we're just going to scroll up here to B. BA. Back view. Okay. And we are going to press B for that, and we are going to assign that. Okay, and then the last one will be the bottom view. Okay, so that should be quite close here. There we go, and we're going to click K for that one. You can choose whichever one you want, but I know that there might be a different key assigned to that. So we're going to just click that and do assign K. Did I click assign on those other ones? I just need to check that for a moment. So that was bottom. Let's have a look at back view. Yes, it is assigned, so that's great. Okay, so now we're going to click done. So we can click save, and just for this instance, we're going to go to Max Intro, and we're going to just go to hotkeys 2023, and we're going to click OK. And that's going to basically create a file for you. So in future versions of Max 2024, 2025, you can just go back to that file and go to customize user interface and load. Click load here, and then you can load that file in, and all your shortcuts will come in from the previous version. Okay, so basically this is what you're going to get from the architect, and from this you're going to start modeling. For the moment we're not going to use this. I'm going to show you just a simpler way, and then in the next lesson we are going to set up the plans, the facade, the sections, and actually build a whole building from it. But for the moment I'd like to build a tower in a more simpler way, and I think it will be better for everybody just starting in Max to learn the tools before they jump into a full building. So what we're going to do is we're just going to go to delete. By the way, selection is over here. So if you need to select something, you're just going to move your mouse button over the select object, and or you can also have select by name. So whatever in your scene, what you have in your scene, it will show up there. But once we build something, I'll show you more or less how that works, and we'll go through these things. These are just quickly the movement tool, the rotate tool, and the scale tool. Before we start, I'd just like to set up one more thing, and that's the snaps. Over here, this 2.5 is usually what we use in the industry for most things. You have a few options. If you click on it and hold, you get 2, 2.5, and 3. Usually what you use is 2.5 and 3. 3 is usually when you want to snap to a already created 3D model, but for plans it's better to use 2.5. Okay, so we're going to click T. We're going to stay in top view for this left viewport, and for the right viewport we are also going to click T for the moment, and we are going to maximize the viewport, and we are going to start creating something for the very first time. Okay, so we are just going to go to zoom extends all, and that puts us at the center of our viewport. This X over here is called the origin, and that's essentially where the world of 3D Studio Max starts. It's 0, 0. So it's the beginning of the cosmos. Okay, so what we're going to do first is essentially we're going to come here. This is like the creation and modify panel. Almost everything that you're going to create in 3D Studio Max is going to start from this panel over here. There are basic boxes that you can create, and we're just going to click Alt and middle mouse button. Again, we're going to rotate this so you can create basic boxes, and this little X that you see around here is basically the snaps, and I've noticed that it's snapping to this grid, which I don't want it to snap. So I'm going to right click on this, and I'm going to uncheck snap to grid points. For the moment vertex is okay, and yeah, that's all okay for the moment. So we're just going to close that, and it's still snapping to the grid. Why is that? I'm just going to select that, delete, and check this out. So vertex options, marker, display, access on frozen objects, home grid. Okay, let's have a look if that's going to work now. Have a rectangle, and there we go, and it's disappeared. All right, perfect. So we are going to select that and again press delete on the keyboard. As I was showing you before, over here you have a bunch of different presets. Just going to zoom in here because we're a little bit far away from 0, 0, and we're going to have a box basically like this, and just move. So you essentially click, drag and move your mouse up, and that creates a box and it gives it height. Over here you can adjust how high they are, how wide they are, and how long they are. And there's many other basic objects that you can create over here, and they all have their procedural kind of parameters over here. And there's one funny one, basically the teapot, and the teapot came about by the team at AUTODESK getting a challenge to create a complex object that can be edited in terms of size and simplicity, and they eventually came up with this teapot. It's very famous, you'll get to know it. Okay, so but for the moment we don't need those. I'm just going to show you again how the viewports look. So front view, when you click F, left view when you click L, right view when you click R, and top view when you click T, and then just click zoom extends all, and then we have all of those over there. Okay, so now how do we build a building? I'm gonna go to top view by clicking T, just click here and over there. And now how do we build a building? Most of the time in architecture visualization you're going to be using splines to model. So over here you have your basic geometry creation panel, and over here you have shapes. When you click on shapes, you're going to have line, rectangle, circle. So this time when we draw these things, we are only drawing lines. We are not going to be drawing boxes or spheres anymore. So if we click, have it selected in Alt, middle mouse button again, this time it's only going to be shapes, and you can also have text. So basically we're going to be using this method for the moment to create our first building. We're going to just delete this, select all of this and click the delete button on the keyboard, click on the top view, and we are going to use the rectangle tool to draw a rectangle. Okay, and so a building is obviously not going to be 150 millimeters, so we're going to go to 45,000, and that's going to be 45 meters by 45,000. We're going to zoom out. Now what we can do to modify this and change the shape of this shape, we are going to go and we're going to click at the top here on the modifiers. Okay, so we're going to click on this button over here, and it's going to show us rectangle. We still have our parameters over here. We have interpolation. Interpolation is essentially when you have a curved line, it makes the line smooth. When we change this to an edit spline, I'll show you how that works. And rendering is essentially, if we enable rendering in Viewport and in renderer, we give the line a width, and this will appear when you render the actual image. For the moment we don't need that because we're not going to be using it. So what we're going to do is we're going to right click on rectangle, and we're going to convert it to an editable spline. editable spline gives us more possibilities to modify this rectangle. There's a little triangle next to editable spline which gives you this drop down menu, and what we are going to do is we're going to click on vertex. Vertex is usually what you're going to find on each connecting point on each corner of something. So we can click and drag to select a corner, and we're going to click move. Okay, and this automatically gives us these arms that come out, and we are going to basically make a Bezier curve out of that. So now you can see basically this isn't a smooth line. And when I was talking before about interpolation, when we click interpolation here, it's going to smooth that line out for us. So you can click here, click Bezier. That was I selected that and I right clicked, which gives you this menu over here, which is essentially a shortcut menu to do several different things. You can copy, you can move, and you can change parameters. So what I did was I right clicked and I clicked Bezier, and over here you can it basically gives you the options of having a smooth line or a linear straight line. So I clicked on Bezier, which gave me a curved line. Okay, so we have this curve now. It's already been set to adaptive, so it's going to be smooth, and we are going to move this. This is going to be some funky ass building. But so we're going to right click again, we're going to go to Bezier, we're going to create something perhaps like this, and then we're going to select this one and have something like that, and select that, right click, Bezier, and we're going to move that up like that. And then if you want to, you can also come over here and you can adjust these things. Okay, so we are going to just pull it like this. We're going to make this a little bit more interesting than a standard box building. So yeah, it's kind of like a jelly type building. Okay, so we are happy with the shape. So what now, basically, because this thing doesn't have any width or anything like that, so how do we give this thing a thickness? So what we're going to do is we're going to go to, again, modifier over here, and we're going to go to this drop down menu, which gives you a lot of different modifiers, and the one we are going to be looking for is extrude. Okay, so we're going to go down, and here we go, extrude. It's usually gonna just move this. So to move, just before we go to that, we're gonna just learn how to move this object. So what you can do is you can click on the object, and I'll just go back to the selection tool so you can understand better. But you click on the object and you can right click, and right over here, so quickly, you can just click move, and this gives you 3 different axes. This is actually called your gizmo, and this gives you 3 different axes to move your object on. So you can move it on the x-axis, which is usually left and right. You can move it on your y-axis, which is usually forward and back, and you can also move it on the z-axis, which is usually up and down. Also, if you right click, you can rotate. It's the same, 3 axes to rotate, and you can also scale. There's also 3 axes of scale. Just in case you would like to move this object in a direction diagonally, for example, or just free movement, you can click on, when this yellow square lights up, you can essentially move it wherever you want to move it. You can go to top view by pressing T, again select over here to zoom extend selected, and we can select it and move it around. Okay, to switch these snaps off, all you got to do is, like it says over there, all you got to do is press S. And on a lot of these tools over here, if you hover your mouse button over it, it's going to give you a tooltip. And you can also go to the more section, which is going to go to the help file. So we are going to switch these snaps off because I see it's playing up a little bit. So over here, click on that and you can move it around. If we click Alt middle mouse button to rotate again, it's like that. And over here, you're still moving it in the Z and Y axis. Okay, so usually when you create a spline, it's going to create at 0, 0 in terms of height. So it's going to create it on this grid. It's not going to create it somewhere up there. So that's just good to know. Let's have a look what else there is over here. So we're going to continue with the extrude. So as a base for floor plates, a good number to start with is -300. So that's going to give you a concrete thickness of 30 centimeters. If we click F3, this is going to take us to the shaded view. Okay, F3, default shading, if you can see over here. Click F3 again into wireframe. Okay, if you click on that, you can choose more different styles of how you want to represent your model inside of your viewport. I think this clay option is quite interesting. It's red. We're going to click G to remove this grid because we don't need it. It's just confusing us. Okay, and if we click F3, you can also go through wireframe and clay. And F4 is going to essentially put a wire line on top of the model. So you go F4 on, F4 off, F4 on, F4 off. So we're going to leave it on for the moment. F3 again, just to make sure everybody's with us. Okay, and what are we going to do now? Basically, we can't have a building with just one floor plate. Now we're going to learn how to copy this thing. So we can imagine this building or tower has a ground floor height of 6 meters. So what we're going to go is we're going to go to Tools. We're going to come down here to Array. We're going to click Array. And over here we have a representation of all of these different axes. So what we need to do is we need to copy this floor plate up 6 meters to create the ground floor. So we're going to use the Z axis and we are going to come over here. Let's just have a look. Yeah, you see over here it says movement, scale, rotation and scale. So we want movement because we want to move and copy the floor plate up 6 meters. So we're going to go to 6,000. You can work in centimeters, it would be 600. It's whatever you feel more comfortable in. When I started working in Archverse, in the first company that I worked in, everything was in millimeters, and I think most architects in the UK are working in millimeters, so I just stuck with that, but it's essentially the same thing. And we are going to say we only need 2 floor plates because it's the ground floor, and then the floors after that are going to have a shorter floor to height. So we're going to go to 2, we're going to go to instance. Instance is very important and I'm going to explain what it does to you in a moment. So we're going to click preview and that creates the second floor plate for us. So we can click OK and we are going to repeat this process one more time. Tools, array, just that this time we are going to change this to a floor height of 3200, so 3.2 meters, which is a common height for a tower. We're going to stay instance, and we are going to just increase the count. So this tower can have, let's say, 34 stories, with this one's going to be 35 story. So we're going to hit preview. Oh yeah, now that's starting to look interesting. I'm going to click OK. I'm going to just click on one of these, and we're going to middle mouse button zoom out, pan, click middle mouse button, and then scroll middle mouse button to zoom in. Then what we're going to do is we're going to click Alt. We're going to move around this tower of ours, and I think that that's looking pretty awesome. Okay, so in the array options, we saw that there was two options to copy something, and it said copy. Let's just double check what it actually said there. Array, I said instance or copy. Reference you don't need to know for the moment, but what copy and instance does is essentially, if you copy something, which which you can also do by clicking shift and just click and drag, it's going to give you the same box, and it's going to give you copy and instance. So what a copy is basically an object on its own. So if I want to edit this object now, it's going to deform itself, but it's not going to affect any of these. So we're going to just close these. I'm going to select it, press delete on the keyboard. And the way you know if something is an instance or a copy is basically the text in this modify panel is going to be bold. So what you can do is you can right click on that, and you can click make unique, and now the text has become standard text, and we click vertex and remove this, and it doesn't affect any of the other floor plates. So we're going to just undo that by clicking Ctrl Z. Just close this, Ctrl Z. It's back into this bold instance mode. And what happens if we edit it now? So if we come now, right Alt and middle mouse button, and we do that, it adjusts the whole building for us. And this can save you a lot of time in the future. So if you want to see the building shaded, you can just click over here, show end result. And then when you edit this, it's going to edit in real time like that, which is pretty awesome. And it's a very powerful thing. It's super simple, but it saves you a lot of time, and it's good to organize your file in the beginning and know which things are going to be exactly the same. So when you copy them and you instance them, you can change all of them at the same time. Okay, so now we have a tower with our floor plates, 35 floors with a nice base at the bottom there. How would we add glass to this? Because all towers need to have some sort of a facade. Okay, so what we are going to do is we're going to click on this ground floor floor plate. We're going to right click, and we're going to say clone over here. It's the same as clone is the same as copy, and it's going to give you that, except this time we're going to click copy, and we're going to call it glass. Okay, I'm going to click OK. And now what we are going to do is we are going to change the color of this glass to a blue color. And we're going to click over here. This seems to be a nice blue color. And we're going to click OK. But we don't see that because over here we have clay. But if we go back to default shading, this is going to show us that all of these floor plates have this color. So for the moment, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just move our glass a little bit more down, and I'm going to select by clicking and dragging all of these floor plates, and I'm going to make them a light orange color. Okay, now we're going to go to front view. This one, zoom extend selected, and we are going to move this glass layer by clicking S or left click mouse over here. It's better to just click S because it's quicker. And we are going to move this up, and it's going to snap. You can snap it to the bottom or the top. I'm going to snap it to that floor plate. We're going to zoom out with the middle mouse button, click Alt, and we are going to zoom in, and we are going to go to the modify panel, vertex, select by spline this time, not by vertex. By vertex we were editing the last time with the Bezier splines, so now we're going to go and select spline, and we are going to outline this spline. So we're going to essentially push this spline away from the floor plate. So we can outline this spline by going 10. Let me just zoom in here so I can see better how much it's going to be doing, but we can go to 10. No, we need to go negative. So we go -10, and that's going to push the spline out by 1 centimeter. If we click delete now, it's going to delete the original spline that was left behind over there. It's gone now. There's no more spline, and we're going to select this spline one more time, and we're going to go -10 again. Okay, so now these two are connected, and we are going to close this, and we're going to go back to extrude. Okay, and we are going to extrude this. Let's go to 35 and this is going to create a skin. Let me just have a look what's going on here, because I think there might be an overlap somewhere. So I'll just press Ctrl Z to undo that. And this gives us actually a good opportunity to learn this tool over here, which is isolate selection. So because this is so close to all of these other floor plates, and if I look at it from top view and I zoom out with middle mouse button, it's difficult to work with it. So if I go and I select it and I click this isolates the object, and we can just work on this object on its own and try and find the problem. And then when you finish, you just click that again and you're back in the scene with all your other geometry. So we're going to go in here, we're going to go to top view, and we're going to just click F3, and we're going to have a look. Oh, there's 3 splines. That other one didn't delete for some reason, so very strange. Let me just see if it's selecting all of it. Yeah, okay, so when I delete that, it should work now. Okay, and if we click S, this is a bit weird. Let me have a look at what's going on here. So we're going to go to top view again. We're going to go to spline, and we are going to have, aha, okay, I got it. It's because it's crossing over here. So this is a good learning point again. If your spline crosses the other spline, it's going to create a problem, and it's going to extrude as a solid. We don't want it to extrude as solid, so we're going to delete that again, and we are going to try the same procedure one more time. So we have the spline selected. We're going to go outline minus, let's go 15 this time, and yeah, this time it worked. So you can see now it's basically outlined parallel to the original spline. So we can just close this and go extrude, and now we have our skin. So this is going to be our glass for our building. We go to T for top view, and we're going to go out of isolation. I think we've all been sitting too much time at home. COVID, out of isolation. Okay, so that's looking good. If you just move it on the y-axis, we're going to snap it again. So I pressed S, snap it there, and we are going to just, by moving this triangle next to this, we are going to just push it up, and that is going to give us the skin for our whole building. And that is going to be more or less how much. So it's there. I'm going to come up here. There we go. Okay, so that's our building with the glass. I'm just going to give it a transparent material. We're not going to go into materials in this lesson. We're going to do that in the next lesson, but for the moment you can just click M, and that's going to give you the material editor. And when you open it, it's probably going to come like this. But for just to be simple, we're going to use the compact one. And we're just going to take this one over here. Click on that. You have your glass selected, and we're going to assign this material to that. And this is a physical material. We are going to, I don't actually know, transparent glass. Okay, there we go. When we do our final tower, it's going to be done either in V-Ray or Corona Render. No one really uses these materials. These are just base materials and you don't need to know them at all. But I just did that so we can see our floor plates. Okay, so this is starting to actually look like something pretty cool. I actually quite like it. So most buildings are going to have some sort of frames, but now we have the problem of how on earth do we add frames to a curved surface like this. So for a simple example like this, we're going to use a tool that is called the spacing tool, and it's on the basis of splines as well, or lines. Splines and lines are the same thing. So what we're going to do is we're going to again right click, we're going to clone, and we're going to click copy, and we're going to go spacing tool spline, and we're going to click OK. We are going to delete one of those splines that are in there somewhere. Are there two? Yeah, there are two. Yeah, there we go. So we're going to delete the inner one, and we are going to close that, and we're going to right click on extrude because we don't need the extrusion anymore, and we're just going to click delete. There we go. There we go. And we are going to isolate that by clicking this button over here, isolate selection, which gives us that. And we're going to go to top view. I'm going to click just this button over here, zoom extend selected, and we're going to click on this little cross. Help me, cross. Sorry, it's getting a bit late here, so might be saying a few strange things. So we're going to go to rectangle, and we are going to create the basic frame. And how are we going to do that? We're just going to do a box like this for the moment, and I think a good size frame, yeah, for this size of tower we're going to go 100 by 100, and we are going to just rotate this a little bit so it's in line with that spline. There we go, and we're going to go to the modify panel, sorry, and again we come down and we're going to extrude. There's the extrusion, and it's already saved the same. I just want to see this 100 by 100 looks a bit thick, but anyway, what I was saying was it saves the same height as the previous extrusion. So I'm just going to go into shaded mode, and you know what, I think it's okay actually. So we're just going to go to front view, and we're going to pan, middle mouse button, select this, move down and align it to this first floor plate. I just want to see where it's aligned over here. So going to just double snaps are enabled, and new tooltip, we are going to press spacebar. Doesn't work, this shortcut's not set. Okay, it's fine. I didn't import my shortcuts for this because I wanted this to be a fresh copy of Max. So it doesn't matter, you can just click on this lock essentially. And that means basically when you click and drag, you can't select anything else by mistake. So this selection is locked, this object is locked. So when you're moving something and you want to snap it, it's easier to have it locked, because sometimes you'll be moving it and your cursor will slip and you'll select something else, or you'll move it out of place, and it can be a nightmare. So this is a good thing to learn when you're moving stuff around. Okay, so again I press spacebar and this thing's not even working. So we're going to manually click the lock again, and now it's unlocked. So now you can select everything else again. So we are going to just name this. You should name all of your things, because later when you go to, I think it is in Tools, Scene Explorer, over here you'll have all the things in your scene. When you open 3D Studio Max 2023 for the first time, this will be open by default. But because I opened it a little bit before you guys, I closed it. But don't worry, you can always find it over here, Scene Explorer, and also Layer Explorer. So you can put things on layers and switch them on and off whenever you need them, same as in Photoshop. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to just go over here, we're going to right click and drag to the left and call this frame, and we are going to give it a different color, red for example. And these colors that you assign to the object, they are quite important, and I would recommend that you give everything that has a different material a different color, because later on when we're rendering, that's going to become very useful. When you render out a file, you'll render out another file that's only got the colors, and that way you can only select either the glass or the floor plates or the frames, and you can edit them in Photoshop a lot more easily instead of trying to select certain objects by themselves. So how do we get this frame part to go around this building and follow these squiggly lines? Well, we're going to go back to that spline that we created here, and we can go to the Scene Explorer and we can go to Spacing Tool Spline, and we can select this one also, and we're going to go to Isolate. We can close this for the moment, and what we're going to do now, my friendly friends, is we're going to do something fantastic. we are going to go to align, and we are going to go to spacing tool. This tool is awesome, and you'll use it many times in your fruitful careers. So now we want this thing to follow this spline. So only thing you have to do essentially is go pick path. I'm going to pick path, and we are going to choose by spacing. So usually a window can be, say, 1500, 1.5 meters. Why did that happen? No, anyway, it doesn't matter. So we can just go up with this until we get around 1500 over here. So we're going to move up. Yeah, 1501 millimeters. So I'm pretty sure in building they can have a tolerance of up to, I think it's like 10 millimeters or even 12. So yeah, that's fine. So we get 87 windows. We're going to click apply. And that is going to give us our beautiful frames for this building. Okay, so we're going to go out of isolation mode, and we're just going to delete the one that's out there, and that gives us our frames. If we click F4 and remove the segments, this is going to give us our building and our basic windows. We can also add a horizontal one by using this, reusing this spline, clicking over here, going spline. We're going to go outline, and this time we're going to go outline 100. There we go. And we are going to go the same procedure, extrude. And this time we are going to be extruding, I would say, let's go to 350. We're going to just give it a basic material, white material. And we are going to copy this. We're going to copy this time by snaps, okay? So I'm going to show you how that works. So essentially what you're going to do is you're just going to copy that to here. We are going to say instance because exactly the same as that. So if we edit it, it's going to be easier to edit later on. Click S for snaps, the lock like we did before, and we're going to just put it up to that floor plate. And now we're going to do the same thing, but we are going to click shift, and we're going to align it with that one, and we're going to do, I think it was 34. Well, we'll do 35 just in case. Oh, I think it's 34. Let's do 34. Okay, and it goes right to the top. So I'm going to delete that one and make this the same color because it's going to be snaps. You see, now when there's a material on the actual object, you don't see this color because there's a material on it. But if you click F4, you'll still see the lines in that color. You can change that, but it's not necessary for the moment. Okay, so we can make this smaller. Let's just do 100, and that gives us a frame that is going to be a darker color perhaps, or let's just make it a gray like that. If we go here, we can also go edit, select by color, and that way when you select something with a certain color, that's why I was saying it's important to have a color for different families like frames, floor plates and that kind of stuff, and you click that, it's going to select everything with that same color. So we can add this material also to that. That's going to be gray, and we're going to go again, edit, select by color, and we're going to click this floor plate, and we can just give it a light gray, this one. And why is this, I didn't choose a good blue. That's not a good blue. There. Okay, F4. So that now is starting to look like a proper building. So if we just go to top view, in reality, let's just go over here, go to rectangle, create a rectangle, and go at the top here, rotate, or right click, rotate, not scale, rotate. There we go. And because there'll probably be a core in this building. Well, there's always a core in a building. Lift core, just for those who are not sure what I'm talking about. It's where all the lifts are. Sorry, don't need that. Let's go to extrude. There we go, extrude. Add the same color as the floor plates. There we go. Go to front view and just want to snap this so it's correct. Click S and the lock button again, because I keep pressing spacebar. I think you might even hear it on the video. I keep forgetting that my shortcuts are not working. Alright, so that's looking pretty cool. So from that, basically you can already just get an idea of how your building is looking. And what we're going to do is we're going to just create some cameras to see what this building looks like from certain points of view. So also in this creation panel, like I said, everything that you do is going to be from this side of 3ds Max. We're going to take camera and we're going to choose physical camera, which best represents an actual camera. We're going to go to top view, zoom extends all, and we are going to drag this over here. Okay, and we're just going to alt click there. So the height of this camera is more or less okay, and we are going to look into it, look through the camera. How can we look through the camera? Well, it's super simple. You just select the camera and you press C on your keyboard, and there we already have an interesting point of view. So over here now, instead of perspective or front view, you have camera 001. If you right click on that, you can select the camera target, and that's going to give you the gizmo. You right click again and you click move, and we are going to switch snaps off because I don't want it to be jittery and snapping all over the building where I don't need it to snap. And we're going to go over here to modifiers. That gives us camera, which we're going to need to go back, and we need to go to select camera. And over here you have all the parameters for your camera. When we start rendering, I will go through this in length because it's very important. But for the moment, we can just choose focal length, and we'll choose a 24mm lens. So that is a very common lens used in architectural photography, and there's not too much distortion on it. There we go. And now, because this is a tower and we have a viewport that's in a more or less 16:9 ratio, it should be a bit more pleasing to look at this tower in a portrait kind of view. So what we are going to do is we're going to go to the rendering window, and to go to the rendering window, all you need to do is press F10, or you click at the top here. I think it's render setup, yes, and you have F10. F10 is quicker, but if you get lost, you can always come up here. So we're going to click that, and we are going to extend this a bit larger. This shows you essentially the size of your final render. And what we are going to do is we are going to go to custom, and we are going to keep that unchecked, and we are going to go for width. We are going to go to 4, and height we are going to go to 5. That is the kind of ratio that you get from like a medium format camera, which is like Hasselblad, and it's a nice ratio. It's better than the standard 16:9 ratio inverted. Okay, so we're going to go there. And now what you can do, because we still have this point of view and it's still in like a 16:9 landscape ratio, so why don't we see that? So what you can do is you can go to over here and you can go, right click physical camera 001, and you can go click show save frames, shift F, and you click that, and now that is going to show you exactly what you're going to be rendering. So it's going to block out these black sides, it's going to block out what's not going to render, and everything that you see in here represents this size. Okay, so that's all you need for this at the moment. And we are going to move on back to the camera, select camera, and we are going to proceed to perspective control. Perspective control straightens the vertical lines of a building. There we go. So you'll notice in a lot of architectural photography that vertical lines are extremely important in architectural photography, and they're always straight unless somebody's trying to do a more artistic view and use converging lines. And another thing that we can do is use a shift lens, because at the moment this is kind of sticking out. One way of moving it down is selecting the camera target, click move and lift this up, and that is a way to look at this building. But there's also a different way to do it, which gives you a slightly different vibe or feeling, which is usually done with a tilt and shift lens. In reality, I would suggest googling tilt and shift lenses in architectural photography just to get a bit more information. But okay, so I just click Ctrl Z twice to undo those changes. We are going to do auto correction again, and this time we are going to shift this lens. So we are going to move this down, and that moves the building down with less distortion. So yeah, that looks awesome. And now you can basically play around with different ways of looking at this building, and hidden line. So there's quite a few different ones. There's even like graphite, these kind of things, ink, default shading. So for the moment I'm gonna leave it at default shading. It's one or two more things I just want to go through. So I'm going to just go back to physical camera, take safe frames off, shave frames. Shave your frame, man. Okay, so I just want to show you one other cool thing. So we're going to go here and we're going to go to, fine, we can go to box. No, we're going to go to rectangle again. I just want to see one more thing here. Ellipse, line, fine, we'll go rectangle today. Okay, and we are going to go over here, make this a little bit smaller because it's a little bit too big. I'm gonna make that smaller over here and over here, and we go to modifiers, extrude once again. Before we extrude, I just want to show you one more thing to do with these things. It's gets quite time consuming to every time click it on this and look for your modifier, whichever one you need, scrolling, because there's so many of them. That what you can do is you can create presets for your modifiers. So if you click on configure modifier sets, you click on, let me just double check this, configure modifier sets again, and this is going to give you like presets over here. So you can create, let's say for example 8 this time, and we are going to go for extrude at the top, and we're just going to do extrude for the moment. I'll do a video on just modifiers so you can learn which ones are used the most, but for the moment we're just going to use extrude, and this way you know you can create these presets. So you click OK and nothing happened. That's because you need to actually click show buttons. And now when you have your rectangle here, all you need to do, instead of clicking there and going to look for it, you can just click extrude, boom, and you already have your thing. So we're going to go to -300, and we are going to do tools array. I just want to show you how powerful this array tool is, how cool it is, and the kind of things that you can do with it. So we're going to go to preview on the Z axis, but now we're going to add some rotation in. So we're going to play a little bit with the rotation, and you're going to see the crazy stuff that you can come up with. So we can undo that one, and we can, oops, that's, sorry, let's just go to 900 again, preview. There we go, remove that. To zero out these numbers, you can just right click on the arrows and that will zero them out. And if we go on the Y, just go something like that. And these things start to give you some really incredible shapes, and sometimes it's just fun to play around with this stuff and see what comes up. So we can zero out, right click on these, and we can start twisting things. That's already looking cool. If we take our camera, let's just click OK, and our camera, and I'm gonna just create another camera. I just click T for top view, F3 for wire view, and I'm gonna select the camera and the camera. Look at this in plan. Oh my god, it looks awesome. If you're not getting excited, then I don't know, man. Okay, so we're gonna just copy this by shift drag, and we're gonna go to copy, and we're gonna have a look at what this thing looks like from the point of an actual camera. Let's just go to show save frames. Yeah, man, that's looking pretty awesome. Very, very, very cool. So we can try and do a few different modifications here. So we can take this one and copy that again, say copy, let's go to tools, array, preview, and say we got that. Now we've still got scale. So like if we start to scale this thing, let's just go here. So it's kind of bigger at the bottom and smaller at the top. That's pretty cool. That's quite interesting as well. And you can also shift this stuff, and you can get some crazy things. So there's a lot of stuff to play around with, and there's a lot of opportunities to create something really cool. And so we're going to go to F3, and for the moment I think that's it for this lesson, guys. Thank you for joining us. If you have any questions, please post them in the comments below. I'll be happy to reply to them and help you in any way that I can. Please join me for the second video. Like and subscribe. Cheers, bye.